I think when things are more stressful and chaotic in the public sphere, it requires reclaiming joy. It will require the best creativity from all concerned citizens, but you don't do it to be a good citizen. You do it to most closely align with how you want to be in the world. Welcome to Created Creative. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Ruth.
Happy Memorial Day.
Yeah, Memorial Day.
Do you have ongoing things you always do for Memorial Day?
I was just remembering last year,
Yes.
you had that cool picture of you with
the Fleet Week people.
Yeah, the Fleet Week people.
The armed forces.
And I had been at the cemetery.
Yes, actually doing Memorial Day.
The empty cemetery. Yeah. So I don't have things that this year, it's the same weekend as graduation and my birthday. It's a
Happy
very
birthday.
special. Thank you. Yes, 55. Isn't that wild?
That's
55.
fun.
It is.
It's the speed limit.
It's the speed limit. Yes. And I don't freak out because the alternative is to be dead. And I'm thankful for each.
How great that you made it to 55.
Year. I know, right? Yeah.
Woo!
But it does go fast, the time. And because I truly do feel I'm in my 20s in a lot of ways until I'm with a group of 20-year-olds.
And
then
I'm
like, no,
I'm not.
I'm not in my 20s. So it will be a very busy weekend with graduation and my birthday.
So we'll get a report on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We start the outdoor services at the church too. So that's a really big deal at the church. A lot of the community comes to our outdoor services. So,
and you have an uptick because you are in the vacation area.
Yeah.
I'm so used to being in places where there's less people in the summer. And you're like, we're ramping up.
It really is, yeah.
Wow.
It almost doubles in the summer. Everything around here accelerates in the summer. There's so much more going on.
You live in a vacation paradise. I live in a year-round paradise. Memorial Day is like the kickoff to summer. Fleet Week really is a kickoff to summer.
Yeah.
So, but also I'm starting to think, when will I do some of these things I always do?
Yeah, things are changing as time goes by.
And just the different things as Lucy gets older that you can do in summer.
And like for me, there were lots of things that the boys and I had as things we would usually do. But now as they're getting bigger, it's what do I want my things to look like too? Yeah. Like I could do anything.
Yeah.
So
and then figure out with them what are the one or two traditions you want to hang on to.
Because I still want to do things with them too. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun road trip memories.
I already did a road trip to Nashville and Indianapolis.
Yeah.
There will be another one.
I'm sure. Jesse really wants to come out to New York this summer.
Oh,
so if we do come, I want to come when you're there so I can actually see you in your natural habitat. Are you coming? You don't know when you're coming back this summer.
Maybe
the state fair.
Maybe the state. And then I did commit to a show in September that I'll have to get the car. So
Is that in Indiana again?
It's in Missouri.
Missouri. Okay. Yeah. So what are you up to today?
We went to the pediatrician and it was the first time the doctor had a conversation with her to assess her and not just me.
Wow.
What's your name? What is your favorite color? Just to see her language development.
And was she responding pretty well?
She was. And last time we got the speech therapy referral and I never went. So irresponsible. And now she's like, oh, it doesn't seem like you need it. And I was like, I know. But of course I turned it in 2 days ago because I don't want to go back there and tell them that I didn't do it.
Yeah. Parenting is hard. There are a lot of balls to juggle all the time.
Also, she was like, so you're not that worried about it? And I was like, no, but the other pediatrician gave me this referral. And I said, she's in a theater class with 7 other 2-year-olds and she does not seem remarkably behind.
Kids progress at such different. It's good to keep an eye on it, of course, but you expose her to so many things.
You know, you don't get credit for all the exposure to the arts and culture and variety of experiences at the pediatrician.
You should.
I'm enriching her brain all the time, but that's not on the checklist.
Yeah. So at my yoga studio, it was the birthday of the owner on Wednesday. And so it was a really fun class. And then we all had beer at the yoga studio afterwards.
Which is just so cleansing your body. And
yeah, it was funny because during Savasana, a guy's passing out beer.
Funny.
Yeah, no, I don't usually sit on my yoga mat and have a beer, but it was fun.
I hope they checked that nobody was in AA.
Yeah. And of course, sometimes there are young people there too.
Oh, yeah. Illegal. Yeah.
But the guy who was handing it out pretty much knows everybody. Anyway, I haven't heard about any legal fallout that's happened from it. That would be exciting, but that wasn't my story. It was just fun. Yeah. So I was doing a little bit of research about Julia Cameron because today we are going to be talking about the book, The Artist's Way, because so many of our guests have brought up this book as being an inspiration to them. And so Julia Cameron, the author, there were a few interesting things. Did you know she was married to Martin Scorsese?
I saw her daughter in a play in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
And people were talking, is Martin Scorsese here? And someone's like, no, but Julia Cameron's here. And then the first person was like, that's an even bigger deal to me.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So you've been in the same room as her?
I guess so.
Oh, that's cool. She was born in Illinois. And the first time that this book, The Artist's Way, came out, it was just a self-published book that she had put together. She wanted to share with some friends. Gosh, how many years? I think it's about 30 years ago now that it came out.
Sounds like it. Somebody else urged her to do it. Like other people's lives were changed and they were saying to her, you have to write this down.
And it's really become a phenomenon.
Not unlike AA that we just mentioned, that it is so simple and accessible that it works. Like she hit on some deep truth that works for a lot of people. And also, a lot of people meet in groups, not unlike AA, and go through the book. It's healing something that's not quite as extreme as alcoholism, but it might feel as magical to certain people.
And so when was the first time you encountered the book?
I don't know when I first encountered it, like pretty long ago though. And then during the pandemic, I was in a group that we went through it together.
Oh, okay.
Weeks. That was definitely not my first time, but on my own, I never get it done on my own. I think part of the artist's way is actually finishing. That's the challenge for me.
It's funny that you bring up doing it during the pandemic, because that was something else I just read, was that during the pandemic, it came back onto the bestseller list because so many people were reading it and going through it again. And I know I've shared this story before, but for me, it was during seminary. A friend and I would meet early in the morning and talk about it and do writing.
That's a long time ago.
But the book was pretty new. It would have been 94, 95 when we were looking at it. So
definitely not that long ago, but somewhere in maybe late 90s, somebody suggested it to me. I do know, I think I got it at the Barnes & Noble Roseville, which I just learned. I learned it on the internet and did not fact check it. So someone write in if I'm wrong. Barnes & Noble Roseville was the first Barnes & Noble outside New York.
At the Harmar Mall? Mean? I don't think that's true because I worked there and I remember when it came in. I mean,
why would it not be the first?
I don't know. Like, that just blows my mind if that's true.
It does. It blows my mind.
I had no idea. But now that you mention it, I guess that is possible. I worked there in seminary for a while.
Well, it does line up because the first Target in the world is right there.
I guess so.
They just like to start things in Roseville, Minnesota.
Yeah, the Harmar Mall. That's funny.
The first Barnes & Noble ever was near where I lived during NYU.
The first Dairy Queen is in that area too.
In Harmar?
No, but in St. Paul, Roseville, that area there.
Wow. Everything's happening in Roseville. Okay. It's by the University of Minnesota. That would make sense.
I was going to say, when I was on sabbatical, I went through the book. That was one of my projects. My main project was I did The Artist's Way. Wow.
So you, baseline, are able to follow through with something on your own for 12 weeks in ways I cannot.
But you can do all sorts of things I can't do. So that's...
It's fascinating, though. Is it an introvert thing or is it a different quality of your person?
I don't know. To me, that's easy to just find it engaging and not hard. God made us all very different and beautiful. I also heard Julia Cameron being interviewed, and here was a quote that she said that I really liked, and this is right up the alley of our podcast. She said, creativity and spirituality intertwine like dancing partners. Isn't that cool?
Yes, like dancing. So how are we going about this? What are we talking about?
I want to talk a little bit about the main parts, like the morning pages and the artist state and what they are.
Yes.
And we want to do it this summer and encourage our listeners.
Right.
I think if today could be just an introduction to the book, I think it would be fun if each week now after this, I talk about how we went through week one and how did that go? And somehow invite our listeners in to think about that with us and be going through it each week.
Is it going to be like in the intro of every podcast then for 12 weeks?
I think that could be fun. Yeah.
And then we can also then make 2 clips so that there is always one on social media regarding the Artist's Way.
That would be cool.
And then there's a different one regarding the guests.
And I could make some slides each week with some discussion questions from the book and like draw those in and talk about them each week too, what other people are saying. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about it in our Patreon group.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so today we're talking about
Is it an introduction to the book and the concept of the book,
Okay.
and then inviting people to join us?
why is this the year of the artist's way? Like, why 2025?
Yeah, you're good at that. So why is this the year of the artist's way, Dawn?
It feels like this is a year to reclaim joy. I think when things are more stressful and chaotic in the public sphere, it requires reclaiming joy. It will require the best creativity from all concerned citizens, but you don't do it to be a good citizen. You do it to most closely align with who you are and how you want to be in the world. So I know it could be we're doing the artist's way to so that I can crochet more, which is legit if that's part of your calming practice and fun and all the things. But part of the artist's way is about creatively thinking about your life, creatively thinking about whatever problems come up, and this is the time to do it.
And don't you think that's probably one of the reasons why it was also so popular in 2020?
For sure.
Times like that and now, it calls for deeper reflection. And that is exactly what the artist's way helps people to do, to think more deeply about their lives.
I'm not that concerned. I'm glad she developed this in terms of writing. I don't really have a lot of angst about accessing creativity. As a writer, when I was making a web series, when I've been an actor, it's more the part of it about creative living, about being more aligned with the core of my being. And that's where the creativity overlaps with spirituality.
Exactly. We should maybe just talk about, so the very first precept of this plan is the morning pages, which it's supposed to be 3 pages that you write like stream of consciousness every day and write by hand. And you don't think about, how do I make this sentence sound perfect? You just write what if you're hungry or what you had for lunch or what you're thinking about doing. It could be anything, but just you put down what you're thinking about, and it's supposed to be the first thing you do each day. She's pretty particular about that it is the first thing that you do, although I've heard her say that so many times in different interviews. But then she also says in the book, there's no wrong way to do the morning pages.
And I think she means the content. She does not mean the timing.
Oh, yeah. Because when I was listening to, he just said, can you do it at night? And she's like, well, then you're reflecting on the day. But if you do it first thing, then you're setting up your day,
Here's the thing. I wake up to crying for milk every single day. I'm not going to do this first thing.
You have to do what works for your life.
I will say, as she's having her morning milk, I am laying down for a few minutes and I could be writing that. I think part of the rub, too, has always been that I am so not a morning person. And I know some of it is about accessing your subconscious before your whole rational mind wakes up. That's a big part of it. And yet I feel so terrible in the morning. I am almost always waking up against my will.
Yeah.
I know there are people who wake up refreshed.
Yeah. I've confessed that I don't always write them by hand. Sometimes I type them, and she would not like that. But sometimes I just feel like typing it. And what's most valuable to me about the practice is doing it consistently and then seeing what is bubbling up each day I'm talking about this thing a lot. I wonder if that must be on my mind. Because sometimes I don't even realize how much I'm thinking about something until...
Right. There might be the necessity that I'm doing. I mean, I can try it first thing, but it might be later in the day just because... How will I even do that with someone grabbing the pen the whole time?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not getting stream of consciousness.
No, you have to do it when it works for you, you know?
Ideally, you would wake up before, you're hardly even sitting up. The pen and paper are beside the bed and you're doing it immediately. I've always done it with pen and paper, never typed, but also I've never followed through for 12 weeks. So who knows?
Yep. The other part is the artist date. Is that supposed to be weekly, right?
Yeah.
A weekly...
I recommend this to coaching clients all the time. All the time. When people are not able to hear that still small voice of God, I'm like, you have to just start setting aside, here's what the artist date is, 2-ish hours where you can do any legal thing. So some people, the value is saying, if I want to stare at a blade of grass and that does not feel productive, I'm allowed to do it. Like giving yourself permission to listen to that inner voice, inner urges, or wander, things that don't feel productive. You start to see where your creativity lies, where your interests lie, where your impulses are going.
So when you instruct people, do you tell them it should not be productive? It should just be the purpose is fun, or the purpose is...
I tell them the main thing is they can't pre-plan it.
Okay.
I think maybe Julia Cameron would allow you to pre-plan it.
Yeah. I'm interested in how you do it with your...
I guess in the context of coaching, it's more about listening to that voice in real time. Most of my people are over functioning times 10. And so you can't also over function your artist state.
Yeah.
If you plan it to the T, it becomes yet another thing that you got to get there on time and do it the way you pictured it. I could see if you're doing it consistently further into it, you could say, I've been wanting to wander through shops, so I'm going to make a plan to be in this neighborhood where there are cute shops.
And so the purpose of it is to just open up your mind because you're doing something you don't normally do or something interesting to you.
Right, getting a pattern interrupt, but the main pattern interrupt is to not plan.
Yeah.
That your life is overscheduled, that you're manipulating experiences into being a certain way, that you're at the root living everyone else's expectation. That's when I tell people to do the artistry, when they're always living everyone else's expectation.
And I'll tell you one thing, if there's any part of the artist's way that I falter at doing, it's the artist state.
See, I'm into that and I'm not as good at the pages. That's funny.
Yeah, because it's funny because like the writing, it's okay, I've got a task, let's do the task. But then the artist state, it's what is this frivolity?
So you need it for the reasons I tell the coaching clients.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what's sad. It's even hard to think of things to do for the artist state sometimes.
Well, you're not supposed to think of things.
Yeah. To just wander out into the wild and...
Yeah. And listen to where you want to be.
Yeah.
I'm not a purist about the way she wants you to do it. You probably are allowed to plan things, but coaching people are over planning their lives and won't do something for no reason. But then it is impossible to hear, for at least these people in this context, this still small voice of God.
Yeah.
It's so quiet.
Right. Yeah.
You have to make space.
Yeah. That's interesting that you use that a lot in your coaching. And then those were the two main precepts, right? Yeah. The artist state. And then there's a contract that you're supposed to fill out.
Which I am willing to not honor a contract with myself. I think that's a lot of people.
Yes.
What do you think about, she said, when you are more attuned to your creative self, you start to notice synchronicities. How do we see the difference between synchronicity and manifesting?
Oh, that's a good question. Synchronicity and manifesting. From the ways that we hear people talking about manifesting, sometimes it seems like they almost think of it as the same thing.
Yes.
Do you think?
Synchronicity makes me slightly more comfortable. Manifesting is like asking for something that is way outside your realm sometimes. And when someone's like, I manifested $1 million, and I'm like, then you know enough people that could buy your product or support you in that way that have enough cash to add up to $1 million. Synchronicity feels more like the Baader-Meinhof effect. Baader-Meinhof is, when I was pregnant, I noticed other pregnant people. When you want to buy a red car, you notice all the red cars. It's like top of mind, frontal lobe. So the synchronicity would come from, you're always in the morning pages, you're noticing these themes, and then you start noticing it around you because you've kept it top of mind. So you're more aligned with what you want, and then you notice it already in your world. That still may feel magical.
Yeah.
But that's different than trying to get something that's far outside your reach and wanting it to just come to you.
Well, and you can think about it as simply as how grateful people are always spotting things that they're so grateful for. Now, and the opposite is true as well. People that are dissatisfied with their circumstances will always find more things to be dissatisfied with.
Well, and people who are like, everyone on the subway is terrible. And I'm like, first of all, I'm on the subway. Am I terrible? And I have experienced people, for the most part, being so kind and helpful. You notice what you want to notice.
Yeah, like I was actually just talking with someone earlier today. I was joking about, this is just a funny story, but one time this family had a dog that was really sick and was dying, and the family had little kids too. And so it was very hard for the whole family. They were very sad this dog was dying, and the dog had eaten a bunch of change, apparently, and there was nothing that could be done.
Whoa.
I don't know. Yeah, like, oh, this dog is going to die. And so anyway, so I said, I could come over and just pray with the family and pray with the dog. Be happy to do that. We prayed. We all prayed. Everybody cried. And then I always pray when if healing is possible, let that happen. And then the dog got better.
You're healing. You're healing. Oh,
and so I say that was my one miracle I've seen.
Yeah.
I feel like I see miracles, but I was telling this person I know at yoga, and he was like, I see miracles every day. And I believe that's true. I believe he's the kind of person that he noted miracles all around, because some people are just like that. And it's, what do you define as a miracle? I mean, there are miracles, just that we're breathing, you and me, and talking to one another on that's a miracle.
So what can people do if they want to do this with us? Buy the book.
Yes. So we would love to go through this program this summer, since it's such a foundational book that so many people seem to find as a cornerstone when they think about their creative and spiritual lives. And we thought it would be really fun to go through it together, but then also draw in conversation with all of you too. And so get your hands on a book, Artist's Way.
I'd suggest a physical book, even if you're an audiobook person.
Yes, because this is one of those books that you'll want to be able to write notes in it. And at the end of each chapter, there's different questions to answer, and it's just nice to have the physical copy in front of you.
Plus, if you're supposed to do this with pen and paper and there's more of a connection with your brain, you actually don't want any devices near you while you're doing this work.
Yes, that is very true.
So you would need the book.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. There's different covers.
Oh, you have an 25th anniversary. You haven't updated.
I do, because I don't know what happened to my original one.
And we'll discuss it in our creative containers too. So they're coming every month. Join the Patreon at the $10 or $20 level to be invited to the next creative container.
Yes. Each week, Dawn and I, as we record, we'll be talking about our progress, and we'll be posting on Instagram some questions that we would love your insight to, and to hear your progress with it.
So the 12th week would be August 18th.
Okay.
It'll fit nicely if we're going to talk about week 1, first week of June, and then go from there.
This will be a good exercise for the summer.
Yay.
Yeah.
So are there other things you wanted to say?
Yeah, I don't know.
What other quotes did I write down? If we asked her how did creativity and spirituality connect, she would say they're one and the same.
Yes.
They dance, whatever you said.
They intertwine like dancing partners. I feel like there's just so much good stuff.
What?
Let's each find one more quote that we liked, that we underlined.
I have them right all together.
Okay. Remember that in order to recover as an artist, you must be willing to be a bad artist. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. By being willing to be a bad artist, you have a chance to be an artist, and perhaps over time a very good one. When I make this point in teaching, I'm met by instant defensive hostility. But do you know how old I will be by the time I learn to really play the piano, or act, or paint, or write a decent play? Yes, the same age you will be if you don't. So let's start. Yeah, I love that.
And there's all kinds of stories about people starting late, and it is a different path. And also, she's on the Upper West Side of New York City, where it is about becoming the pinnacle of the thing. But so many of us are just creative without that goal. How about this? When she said, page 1.
Page 1.
For most of us, the idea that the creator encourages creativity is a radical thought. We tend to think, or at least fear, that creative dreams are egotistical, something that God wouldn't approve of for us, which is a thesis statement of the podcast. We are created creative by a creator.
Yep.
And it makes a lot of sense that we want to do it with our listeners.
I know. Seriously, I can't think of a book that is more in line with what we talk about every week. It was interesting. One of the podcasts that I found when I was thinking about her this week, Julia Cameron, it was a conversation with Elizabeth Gilbert.
Another big inspiration of the podcast.
Yeah. I think Big Magic has to be probably the next book that we talk about.
Yeah.
I look forward to spending the summer talking about this one.
Thank you for joining us. Created creative.
We're so glad that you could be with us. And please, if you haven't already, follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and our Patreon. We would love to have you join our Patreon, and especially our creative container, where we're going to be talking with people about their projects. And it's a real creative gathering.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And go create something.
Go create something.